All right, this is One Last Midnight. Welcome back to another episode of Astroneer. And today we're going to look at the new button repeaters that were given out in the Automation Update 2. And also we're going to look at how to make a new timer with it. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. In previous videos, we looked at different possible timer solutions. We looked at a battery sensor timer, which would monitor the battery and then based on it being charged up would fire a signal to turn on the soil centrifuge. We looked at several different storage timers, which would monitor the storage and send off a signal based off whether the storage was full or empty. We also looked at some auto arm timers that would essentially monitor the storage to see if it was empty or full and then sent a signal off to whatever device to activate it or turn it off. And we also looked at variable related timers where you have a power sensor that monitors whether power is gained or lost and sends a signal off. And when the wind blows or stops, it will activate this foghorn. Of course, it's 100% variable because it's based off of the wind. But all of that has changed. With Automation Update 2, we were given two new repeaters, a delay repeater and a count repeater. And this has really changed the game for timers. And let me show you how this all works. The button repeater remains the same. When you put down a segment and you attach it to something, it sends a signal when you hold the button down. In this case, we're turning on and off this light. The delay repeater will send out a signal when it meets the delay time. Now, the delay repeater is not in seconds. It's actually in something called ticks. And I'm going to let Aaron from System Era and Joe kind of explain to you how this timer works.
The delay repeater and the count repeater are sort of two of three pieces that we're adding to kind of help primarily with building more complicated logic setups. And so the delay one is, I think, pretty straightforward aside from the kind of confusing cycles tick thing.
Yes.
We actually had started by making it time-based initially. And then we ran into issues when we were doing some larger scale logic setups where, particularly when you're using the power sensor, say with a power switch to kind of regulate on-off states in your logic system, the tick-based nature of the power system would get out of sync with the time-based nature of the repeaters.
Got it.
And so you'd end up where you wanted a delay to fire after you had turned on a switch, and it would end up happening in the reverse.
Got it.
And so we switched it to be tick-based so that those two things stay in alignment and you can use both of them to drive your logic. What we did do is tie that around 30 frames per second so that anything higher than 30 frames, you should get a pretty consistent time delay for whatever cycle you set it to. Mm-hmm. It's only if you go below 30 seconds that you'll get some kind of time dilation where, for instance, if you're running at 50 frames per second, 10 ticks will take twice as long as they normally would because your frames are taking twice as long. But once you're at 30 and above, it takes the same amount of time, whether it's 30, 60, or 120.
Cool.
So it's not like your light boards are going to animate twice as fast with a better frame rate.
Yeah. Got it.
So if you listen to their explanation, what they're saying is it really depends on people's computer configurations to determine the time of this repeater. Now, I had played with it earlier in another video, and for me, it seems like 7.5 equals 1 second. And since I can't set 7.5 up, I'm just going to set this up to 8. But we could easily test this. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to take a button repeater and we're going to attach it a segment into the delay repeater. And then we're going to take the delay repeater, branch that off and attach it back to our light. And so what should happen is when I activate the button, the delay repeater will wait a period of time and then send a signal over to the floodlight. So you can see that happened. Now that happened pretty much in 1 second, and it was a little hard to see. So let's increase the time all the way up to 25, and let's do it again. And you can see that the timer is running, and once the timer completes, it sends that signal over to the floodlight to turn on and off. Now you can use this two combinations of items as an actual timer. If I attach the target pin back to the button repeater and then use this segment and attached it to the light, I could set this item up to continue to turn on and off items infinitely. The timer is running. It's going to send a signal. The light turns off. The timer started again. It sends another signal. Rinse and repeat over and over again. So you could see how useful this is. If I adjust this repeat delay down to what would be equal to 1 second for me, 1001, 1001, 1001, 1000, maybe it's a little bit faster. So I can increase it and try to get that 1 second click. Now I have a timer that is pretty much reliable for 1 second. If I add the count repeater, and the count repeater is very simple, it says, I will send off a signal when this reaches the number of the count that I was expected to hit. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't do a 1. 1 should actually be removed from this counter because 1 never fires. So it will fire on 2 only, and then all the way up to 8. Unfortunately, it doesn't go higher than 8. I would really like to see this repeat counter go up to something like 20 and also allow it to be used at a 1 count. But let me show you how you could do this. So I have now a repeatable 1 second timer with the button repeater and the delay repeater set for me as 9 ticks. If I then turn around and branch this segment out and reattach it to the button repeater, but take this branch and attach it to the count repeater, I can now set my count repeater to be any number. So let's say we're going to set it up to 8. And so the count repeater's target will actually fire when it hits its maximum count number, which is set to 8. So if this is 1 second, then in 8 seconds, my light should fire. And let's go ahead and test that. You can see 1 second went off and the count repeater is now clicking away. And once it's done, it will fire a signal. And so now I have an 8 second timer, which is really, really nice. So we could use the count repeater to do multiples of time. We could also use the delay repeater to do multiples of time, or any combination of any one of these, to be honest with you. We could daisy chain these together. We could take this count repeater, which is set for 1 second, and we could put the target pin on this other count repeater. And then we could take the target pin for the second count repeater and we could put it back into the button. And what will happen is this will fire for 1 second, this will fire for 1 second, and then the process will start all over again. And we've given ourselves a 2 second counter. You can use these 3 repeaters in various different combinations to get the amount of time that you want to delay. So you no longer have to worry about power sensor timers or battery timers or storage timers. You could definitely use the delay repeater and the count repeater to give yourself a very reliable timed event. Okay, so that was my video on the new button repeaters and also how to make a new timer. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I'd love to have you in the community. If you want to follow me on any of my social media, you can find the links in the description below, and make sure to hit that notification bell. That way you know when I go live and when I post new videos. Talk to you later. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.